Welcome to the Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan Show. I'm your host, Crypt Rick, and this is my co-host, Jonathan Wright.
We are going to be bringing you information and inspiration from all the variety under the sun. Things that will encourage mental and spiritual growth and empower you to freedom, fun, and health.
Make sure you don't miss our show every Saturday, Studio B, 6 to 8 p.m. right here at Revolution Radio.
The journey begins.
Welcome everybody. It is another Saturday night here at Revolution Radio, and it is the Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan Show. Want to welcome everybody. Hope you guys are having a start to a great weekend, and thank you guys for all tuning in every week. I really look forward to doing this show with my co-host every week, always having amazing guests, so I thank you guys for tuning in every week. And I also want to thank everybody who does support and donate to Revolution Radio here, because everybody knows that it is listener supported, and I always say it is you guys that make this all work and come together, because it is through your donations that we can continue to do these shows every week for you. And there's so many other amazing creators here at Revolution Radio doing shows almost 24/7. So I mean, I think it's a great thing to support. Freedom of speech is alive and well here, and any topic can be talked about. There's no censorship going on, and I think at this time it is so important to support that. Many ways you can do that. If you're into cryptocurrency, that's your thing. They have Bitcoin Cash, also Ethereum. And if you want to do Patreon, where you donate a little bit every month, whatever amount you choose, they got that covered as well. So lots of great ways you can donate. Just go to freedomslips.com, head up to the top where it says donate, and it'll walk you through all the different ways we can donate. You can donate. And don't forget to check out the shop as well. Lots of cool merchandise there, t-shirts. There's host mugs, lots of great stuff to show your support there and get a conversation started, if you're wearing a t-shirt or something. So please check out the shop too, guys, when you get a chance. So I just want to get that out of the way. And once again, welcome my amazing co-host, Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan. How are you this evening?
Aloha. I am doing wonderful.
Awesome to hear. Awesome.
Yes. I'm doing wonderful. I've had a couple of past days that were really good. I've been able to work in the yard and really get some leaves straightened up and put where they need to be, and then covered with mulch, and
Nice.
Really kind of get some soil getting brought back to life. And I watched a couple of really good videos actually that are all about composting and creating compost the best ways, and it's actually really simple, and it just needs a little bit of effort to set it up properly. And
Yep.
It was just kind of an eye-opener for me. So I kind of walked in my backyard and with some new eyes and looked around for where I can maybe set this up and have a great big pile of leaves that can just sit there and be leaves for about a year and a half. And at about the 3-month point, you just dump in some worms.
Yep.
And that's literally it. You spray it down and you keep it moist. And then you basically just otherwise let nature handle it. And it's a big enough pile that the worms can go in far enough to survive through the winter. And
That's so cool. I was lucky, because when we bought the house, my brother already had an established compost pile. He's been doing it for years.
Oh, nice.
And once you get it set up, it's like I always tell people, nature knows how to take care of itself. Let nature do its thing. But it's great. Like you said, it takes a little bit of prep, set it up. But once you get it running.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You can get small amounts, and it takes 1 year. Literally in 1 year, with just your leaves that you're picking up in your yard and some other basic stuff, clippings and leaves, and turning it. And then, honestly, to me, it's like this guy, the video I was watching, it seemed like he was figuring out too, like, why not add earthworms all the time? Because he only did it at this one bin where it was like a refrigerator freezer thing that was not used anymore for that. So he just kind of kept it all in here. So it was a year round. He was in Colorado as well, so winters were crazy. And he would put his worms in there because they would live. And but he figured out the heat, in the bigger piles would keep them alive as well. and he just decided to start adding worms to everything to get the worm castings for one, but they speed up the process so much that literally in a year you can take a pile of leaves and have stuff that looks like, compost you would buy in a bag at a store that's like broken down and ready to just rock and roll.
Yep.
It's crazy.
I just see everybody around my area, they all rake their yards and they pick up all their leaves, and then they have like a leaf pickup. I'm not sure if they do that where you are, but where I do, you see like all these yards, they got like 50 bags of leaves out in the front. I just look at that and I'm like, you're getting rid of the good stuff.
It's money. Yeah, they're getting rid of money. My neighbor right next to me, I think I'm going to ask him next time to just because he vacuums them up with a big old riding mower.
Send him over here.
It's like, dude, it's not any harder for him. He just drives here instead of there and like dump them right there. And because he can make serious piles with that thing. He's got an acre. He's got a full acre of yard over there to suck up. So, and I only have half and I make piles. So, So yeah, it's one of those things. I did want to talk to, just kind of briefly mention some of the things that I've been thinking about over the week. With a couple of the other good days, had some pretty good conversations, and one of them kind of sparked me to think about follow through, and how important just the concept of follow through is with anything, like actually not just starting something and then kind of maybe half-assing it or losing interest, I suppose. And I that happens, I guess. There's things like that happen.
For sure.
But when you're really going to endeavor to learn about something or to conquest something, be able to say you can do something, you should really follow through with the very best of what you have. And, in research, in cleaning your house, just in all aspects of it, because it you'll find that it leaves you complete. It's like it's doing a good job. And some of the things that you have to do that just seem like so trivial or insignificant that are just like, why would I, but it does it right, to be doing the job right, whichever one it is, and to do it takes a few extra seconds. So just always look at it like that. It only takes a few extra seconds to do it right, and that'll also kind of help you work on patience if that's anything you need to work on, which I know it is for me. So,
well, and I think about cutting corners. Like when you say that, I think about when you start cutting corners, that's a bad habit to get into, because then you start cutting corners bigger. Like you start off a little and then more and more and more. And next thing you know, you're not cutting corners, you're taking chunks out.
Yep.
And that is going to affect anything that you're working on. It has to. So.
And just in your life in general, like how you approach a situation, each situation should be handled properly. Like, so if you're going to grow a yard, you have to focus on the soil first, like kind of thing. Like, and that's why I was just waiting to find what that proper thing was, because I knew I was going to do this. And so I figured if I just hang around it long enough, I'll eventually hear what's the most appropriate way to start. And it pretty quickly, it comes that it's the soil. And so I've been, definitely just kind of letting the universe send me stuff that explains the soil, and it's been coming. So it's really
I was
cool.
just talking to somebody yesterday about your food forest. And that's no joke. Like we were talking for about a half an hour, and I was like talking, because he's into that too. Like he's learning about it, and he's really, in the last couple of years, he's really starting to get into it and learn the whole concept of gardening and food forestry and that. So we had a great conversation. I was talking about how you're redoing your whole yard.
Yeah.
And you're working with and I pointed them to our interview that we did with our guest. And so he watched that and loved it. And so, it was a great conversation that we were talking about just the prep work and what you got to do to get your food forest started properly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work. It's cool. But yeah, speaking of my guest, I've got my buddy came, he actually reached out to me, or I reached out to him through a friend, a common friend, and turns out he was an addict as well at one point, and has gotten sober, and so that was why we were hooked up. And we did a podcast a little while ago. It was one of my first 10, I think, somewhere in that first 10. We did a show, and it was really good. And he goes by Saint John. And that is a name that was given to him by the crowd that he was around, just simply because of the level of, I guess, energy and care and overall just competence that the guy brings to the plate when he comes to do this, helping others thing. And so I'm going to kind of let him discuss in a little bit more detail, specifically what he does. And then we're going to go all over the board, man. We're going to talk about all sorts of cool stuff, but I'm going to let him kind of.
We're going to be all over, I'm sure.
Yeah, we always are. But I'll kind of let him guide us and stuff, but I'll let him also tell us a little bit more about himself, whatever I left out maybe, which I didn't give you a raving intro, but I did give you a basic one. So, John, how are you doing, my friend?
Welcome, John.
I'm doing great. How you guys doing today?
We're doing good, man.
It's good to see y'all. I'm so glad to be a part of what you guys are doing right now. For us to have scheduled content at this particular time of day and this particular day and hour it's a rough audience. There's not a lot of people tuning in right now. So for you guys to have any kind of a following, any kind of watch viewership going on, they're loyal followers, man. They're people that are actually like looking forward to hearing you guys every week. And ever since Jonathan joined the show, Crypt Rick, I want you to know I've been a fan myself. So I didn't even know it existed prior to that. So
wow,
here we are,
guys.
Cool.
He's amazing. I really look forward to working with him. I talk to Jonathan pretty much every day. We're talking, texting or something like that. But I definitely knew I had to get him on as a co-host for sure. Like I really enjoy doing this with him.
So I think Jonathan did a great introduction for me. I mean, I'm not anybody, famous or exciting or anything, but I have a story to tell. My story is very simple. I was in and out of the prison system, in and out of the addiction arena, off and on, in and out of the recovery arena, off and on most of my life, battling addictions for 25 years. And I finally got somewhat of a grasp on it by being actively involved with helping others. Somewhere in the AA Big Book, and I'm not here to promote any 12-step philosophies, but I do want to say somewhere in the AA Big Book, the most successful 12-step program that's out there, the one that a lot of other programs adopted their philosophies and beliefs, it says in there, nothing ensures immunity from the first drink more than intensive work with others. Now, I've just very simply, I've taken out the word drink and I've put any ailment or issue or problem that I've had in my lifetime, and I've ran with it, man. Helping other people has done nothing but benefited me and anybody around me in such amazing ways. You guys were talking about care, people don't care, and all this other stuff in the beginning of this podcast, and that's exactly the truth. People do not care. Right. We need to have the label of handle with care as our primary focus with everything that we go into, guys. I mean, I've been everywhere from, the bottom of the street gutter to in and out of jail systems to dead twice. And, like my overall agenda is just to be the demonstration to the world of what care is supposed to look like, how care benefits you as an individual by utilizing care. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting story for me because a lot of my activities today are all orientated towards helping others. But the only reason I've gotten there is because it's been my practical experience, meaning that I've tried to do this throughout my lifetime. And this is what works for me as an individual to create my own salvation plan, my own methodology, what works for me. And as a result of that, I've been clean and sober for almost, almost 8 years now. And, I had a couple setbacks here and there along the way, but I've been working inside of rehabs. I've been working inside of psychiatric hospitals, and I've been immersed in this Rockefeller, medical system that we've all been subjected to. And as a result, I've come to certain conclusions, not that I didn't have any to begin with distrust of authority or government, but I'm here to let everybody that doesn't know, we are at war. There is a declaration of war against the human beings on this planet.
Absolutely.
By a corrupted system. And for those that don't know, we are in the middle of a 5th generational war that is occurring against our people.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, that's good that you bring up that we are at war, because it is it's something that we talk about, I'd say, pretty regularly. Bring up the idea that it is a spiritual war.
Absolutely. Yep.
And it's funny because I was talking to a friend earlier, and she was talking about how, like almost like what do you do? How do you fight back? And it's like, well, when evil is what it is, really the only way to fight back is to, for example, go out and volunteer. Like that act of literally putting all your energy into doing something for someone else with no hope of any payment of any sort, that's about, not the only thing, of course, but that is one of the highest level of actions that can be performed, in the sense of putting out into the universe the exact opposite vibration of what evil is. And so and that made sense to her. So I learned it from learning to stay sober. You volunteer, that's what you do. You give your time, you give your skills, you give your abilities. And to me, it goes beyond staying sober. To me, it goes to a point of as a reciprocity to the universe for you getting everything you have. I mean, your ability to even do that thing, for me, carpentry. So for me, the ability to do that and still have all these things, even after how catastrophic my idiocy was, I mean, I'm grateful for that. So I'll do it for that, on top of the fact that I can stay sober and help these people and do these other things. Like, just a pure attitude of gratefulness is where I approach it from. And that it matters. It matters, and it brings a lot of good vibrations into this realm.
Very true, John.
Yeah, and I had the privilege of meeting Jonathan in person. I was on my way back from the state of Florida dealing with my brother's affairs when he passed away earlier this year. And on the ride home, we decided to make several stops, and Jonathan's house was one of them. So it was good to see you and meet you in person, Jonathan. It's been a building friendship and a building relationship over the past year. And I really am crazy about the name of your show, Nothing New Under the Sun. Some of the similarities in our story with the different levels of suffering that we've gone through. And we did have a really good show that first time around, you and I together. And we were going to do another one, and we talked about it, but we wanted to do one of these first, which was the podcast, and jump in with you, Rick. So I'm real excited to be here. I'm real excited to talk about some of these topics. I think a lot of stuff needs to be addressed, man, needs to be put on the front line. Over the past weekend, I did do a Stop the Vote campaign. Nobody really watched, but that's okay.
I watched.
What I'm hoping for is, I'm hoping that I'm learning better technology, better resources, better ability with a new system that I purchased. Again, like how you said, you don't do it for the money, Jonathan. Neither do I. I'm not in this for money. There's avenues where people can earn money along the way with this without having it be a forthright for someone to get knowledge. Knowledge should never be called. Knowledge should never you should never charge money for information that could help humanity. That's just ridiculous. So,
right.
We're part of a great network, the One Great Work Network. That's a great channel that was started by Mark Passio. And a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of your audience know who he is, but if you do not, he is a masterful teacher of natural law. He can be found at a website called whatonearthishappening.com. The network that we're talking about is the onegreatworknetwork.com. You can find my material. I need to update my website, but I have a website. It's thelostprinciple.com. But the challenges that we face as the adversary of evil in this ongoing fifth generational war against humanity is the technology involved.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people
Absolutely.
do not know how to utilize the most current, latest, greatest systems and softwares and platforms and, different tricks of the trade of how to get your message out there. I'm still learning a lot of stuff. I know the more people that we can reach and get this information to, and, we're shouting from the rooftops, the mountaintops, of the more people we can get this information to, the better off our society and our children's society is going to be.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
And that's the one thing I learned really quick, John, is when I started doing this, I'm surrounded by people that I thought were tech savvy, that knew about technology, and they could kind of teach me. I know a couple people here and there that help me out periodically, but I learned very quickly that most people, they have a phone and that's it. They don't know much about anything about what we're doing or how to get your information out there. They don't know anything about websites or web building, anything. Like they really, I had a couple, like I said, a couple of people that were tech guys, got me started, gave me kind of a push start and gave me a crash course on it. But I'm really surprised how many people just have a phone and have no idea how to do this. And they know nothing about tech. And I was guilty of that a year ago. Trust me, I fully admit that I knew nothing. But at least I'm learning, and I'm taking Mark Passio's class on how to be the true media. I'm taking that class this year, learning tons. And so at least I'm making an effort. But a lot of people are just happy on their phones. It's why we're losing.
Yeah, that class did a lot for me.
Absolutely.
I learned so much, but I was ready to, I was ready to.
Yep.
I had a computer and I just never used it. And then I realized the one I had was a 2011, so it was a little old. I had to buy a new one, and it's like, okay, well, shit. If I'm buying,
at least you had one.
I
didn't even have one.
Use it. So,
I didn't even have one, so.
Yeah, so it worked out, and yeah, it's what a fantastic thing, and the technology really can be two-sided, of course, because you've got that aspect that you're talking about, and then you've got the aspect of all the EMF waves and all the RF waves,
yes.
the digital meters, smart meters. You've got the phones putting off different frequencies constantly, and now the Wi-Fi in the home. And there's lots of clothing lines that are being lined with silver, so as for protection against these kinds of things. And I think that's a huge aspect to our health that is going to be more and more. It's going to come out more and more as actually the cause of our health problems, and so people are going to start taking it more seriously.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up. I'm really glad that you brought that up because like I've been screaming from the mountaintops with a lot of my inner circles and people that are, they have master degrees and they're directors of programs and everything else. I keep talking about the fact that this 5G, they've been running tests, man. They've been running serious tests. You could see that there's news stories out there of, schools that have had entire classrooms removed and the classes themselves have stopped because of an unknown mystery illness that occurred. A lot of times it's involved with nausea, respiratory illnesses, all these different kinds of things. And then all of a sudden our society's adapting to, all the, for the ones that rolled up their sleeves, all of the contingencies that have come from that. All the different types of illnesses and sicknesses that are now readily available to most members of society, like clotting and cardio issues and respiratory issues. And, you see these horrific stories about what's being pulled out of some of these corpses.
Isn't that scary?
It's like some really scary, intense footage out there.
It's like The Thing. It's like the movie The Thing, literally.
It's
wow.
It's insane. So, I say all that because the healthcare industry, when they implemented this CV-19 situation, right? When they implemented all this, one of the first things that they did was they struck at us technologically. While everything was down, they rerouted a lot of computer systems so that it would include these banners that say CV-19, get this, get that, redirect to here, that kind of thing. And that infiltration of software and technology has not gone away. A lot of people that sit in a red state right now, they think, oh, we've won, it's over. Like, we don't have to do it. We don't care about New York and Pennsylvania and these other places that have to do it. That's a shame for them. But hey, we're okay. And America has a chance. I'm here to tell you that the bad news is America does not have a chance. The software, the policies, it's all there. It's not going away. It's not going to just disappear because we decided to, put it away somewhere. This is in the beginning phases of this wood chipper of how they're going to treat humanity, everything from the airport to the bus station, and your diesel rations, which is it's all coming. It's right around the corner.
That's what I tell people too, John. I tell people that every day. I'm like, you think we've never really suffered? You think that we suffered? We've never really suffered, and what's coming down the pipe is what they have in store for us is truly, it's scary. It's disturbing.
Suffering, yeah, they've got suffering.
And it's suffering. It's true suffering, yeah. And the people I talk to, a lot of them, they get things that are a little bit messed up, but they don't really see the magnitude of it. And I try to steer them into good information, and they just really don't have an interest in it. It really bothers me that they won't even look into the things that I talk about or we talk about. And they just kind of, they know that I think they at a soul level, they know something is definitely messed up, but they just too scared to look at it, I guess, or address it, or I don't know what's going on in their heads, but I try. I try to plant the seeds.
It must be that whole, well, then I have to change so much. Like,
yeah,
that means that like the whole course of my day would be different. It's like, yeah.
And they're in just denial too. A lot of them are in just plain denial. if
Yeah.
I'm being honest.
And then the sham of the election that just occurred, like people think that there's some change afoot somewhere. I got news
I know.
for you. There's no
Yep.
change afoot. Their agenda is still lock and step. Anybody that gets in the way of that agenda is being eliminated or, tarnished in the media or censored or blocked. It's easy for
100%.
them to
Yep.
do something like that to little guys like us, screaming from our platforms, because if they shut us down, like there's not going to be a whole lot of people complaining. But
Mhm.
as you saw in the past couple months, I don't know if you pay attention to the censorship of the world, but there was a guy, his name was Rakita Law. He had something going on where he jumped from YouTube because he got, censored and banned. He jumped, and I'm not promoting him per se. I'm just using him as the example. He got banned from YouTube, and in the very next moment, he's on Rumble, and he's got 26,000 supporters.
Yep, I know what you mean.
Of it. Yeah, so like there's a lot of stuff going on. If for the little guy, us people that are at the bottom of the pool that are swimming, trying to get people to come closer to the top per se, we're not getting there. We're not getting there because they're shutting us down. They've got us inside of these algorithm circles where we just all talk to each other. I don't know if you noticed in your feeds on any platforms that you are involved with, the only people you really see and the only people that are really seeing you is the people that you've been seeing.
Yep.
The people that you've selected to see,
Yeah, basically.
I noticed that too, and I'm like, how do we get it? Like, how do you break free from that? I that's what I always say too. You kind of get in this echo chamber, and it's like, okay, how do we get through that and get new people? I guess doing what we're doing, hoping that we get through.
And then hopefully new people look at it and share it, and then try to post on new platforms like Instagram. Like I've never really paid attention to Instagram, but now I'm going to start putting stuff on Instagram just because it's another one. Not that that's anything special or anything, but for me, it's a different one. So
yeah, hit them on everything, get it on everything, like just flood it. Yeah.
But the way I look at it too is that several people that have seen my stuff and then come back to me, they say they really like what they've seen. Like I have a mission statement, so most people will go read my mission statement and they like it. So that's nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think people understand that there are people out there that it's helping. It's just maybe not big numbers. But I do know some people for sure that have that some of those numbers are repeat people because they like what I put out because it's helping them figure out stuff.
Yep.
And I found some really good outlets just like on different places, Telegram and whatnot, to find places that are doing the same thing. They're just a little bit better at it than me. And some of the videos they put out are wow. You know what I mean? So I'll reshare that and finding interviews with Dr. Lee Merritt. She's just on top of the game right now. She's
sure.
really hitting all the aspects that are the most important. She's the most down to earth, the most realistic, the most like willing to be. I don't know exactly, but it seems like it's this. Like right on. That's how I think a doctor should talk. So anyway, yeah,
So
she's Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so I mean, as we navigate these treacherous borders of trying to get the message out to people, and not letting it negatively affect us as individuals on a personal level, with the whole attack that occurred over the past couple years with the CV and everything else, like they have a mission. And they're lock and step with, the destruction of our organizations, lock and step with the destruction of any personal businesses that people have. That's one of the things that people just don't talk about. How many businesses were lost? How much financial destruction and ruin occurred? Like they shut down inner city businesses and then they came in and bought the properties at dirt cheap cost. Like they're just constantly taking over. What they want is they want high-rise buildings in certain sections of this country, and they want to put us all in there, and they want to act like we have some kind of freedom and that we're tolerable to them. That our numbers are tolerable to them.
Yeah. Which our numbers need to go way down before before it's tolerable to them.
So it's very interesting that we're talking about this, because if everybody on the planet were to stand in a single file line and wrap around the planet, right, we would have 4 people standing next to each other every 6 inches. The amount of space that a body can fit, the average body, it would take four people standing next to each other, and we would wrap around this planet one time. So think about that when you hear people talking about things like population control and population issues. It's all bullshit. You literally
really
could put everybody on the state of Texas.
Right.
You could fit everybody, and they would have a 3/4 acre of land, each one of them. And that's not a lie. That's math. So, like with all this stuff going on, we touched on the 5G thing a little bit. That's one aspect of it. If you live in these so-called red states, like for the people that are like Trump supporters and all, I hate to do it to you, but you're wrong. The agenda's still lockstep. If you think you're going to vote for somebody and they're going to get in there and there's going to be some kind of change, you got to remember that this individual wearing his red coat was standing there, and he's the one that implemented the warped speed of things. So like the warped speed of things, right? So like when you look around and you say, how did this come to be? You got to remember who pushed the button on it. That's been lost and forgotten somewhere in this equation of, like we're going to get our country back and we're going to fix things.
And he still runs around proud of it. That's the thing. That's where Alex Jones freaks out at him. He's like, I don't understand. He's like, Alex is like, I'd forgive him if he'd realized that he messed up and own up to it and go, whoops, and it's bad now. But he doesn't. He's like,
no, he
that's
doubles
right.
down.
And
He's proud.
He's like, it's me. I did it. It's like, okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And you got to remember, they're all on the same team, guys. They're not on our team. We're not on their team. We're never going to be on their team. It's not about being on their team. It's about exposing them for what they're doing and trying to raise it up to another level so that we can move on from them and shed this system that we're using right now. Our participation in it's ridiculous. But the 5G is just one aspect of it. They're utilizing things like weather weapons against us. The weather weapons for those states that think that they're Republican and that there isn't going to be, the federal government's interference with their communist tactics or whatever terms are being thrown around with the gaslighting that occurs, right? Like people don't understand it. It doesn't matter where you are. You're not safe from this attack. Like Texas just had an earthquake the other day, the first of many that are to come. Right. You got Florida just got wiped out by 2 hurricanes, and there'll be more. So
for sure.
Any of these states that are standing there and proud that they're not victims to what's going on, guess what? You're wrong. You are not only the next victim, but you're the current victim, and you are their target. Because what they want to do is, you don't want to get in lockstep with our agenda? That's fine. We'll just send in the weather weapons. We'll wipe out your state, and then we'll send in the federal government. And the federal government's going to say, here's your handout. But first.
And
that's what's coming. Like, I laugh about it like it's funny, but it's not. It's serious business. It's what's coming, guys.
Yep. And Ron DeSantis isn't any better as far as a political person that's going to save people. They always try to look to him, and as far as I know, he was in high level military intelligence, and just people like that are just, I don't know, you're not trustworthy as far as I'm concerned. Certainly not to run the government, and certainly not to be like, he'll be the good guy though. I mean,
right. I talked about it a little bit over the Stop the Vote campaign that I was running over the weekend. Like, there was this skit in this movie with Brewster's Millions where he ran for mayor and he didn't want his name on the ballot. He just wanted the words none of the above.
None of the above.
Yep. But the world that we live in today is just, it's bonkers. It's bonkers. And for people to think that you're going to elect an official that's going to get in there and straighten it all out. Like
I know. Yeah. I've been saying that, John, for years to people. I'm like, if you think you're going to vote, the problems in our world are going to be voted away. You're delusional. You're absolutely delusional that you're going to vote this problem away. This is like I keep saying, it's a spiritual war, and it is. And until people realize that and stop thinking that voting is going to change anything, just look at history. I mean, I don't understand how people can't see that it hasn't worked in the past. It's not going to work in the future. It can't work.
People say, well, then how would we get these social programs if we couldn't vote on them and make sure that we got these programs in because we know more people want them? If people would just willingly do for others, See, again, that's the whole point. That's the whole.
That's the key.
That's the whole key to it. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's like doing for others. So every day you get up, you go out and you try to help other people. That's like what you do. And then the whole community is fine because everyone's helping everyone. It's just how it works.
Yep.
It's how it's going to work. It's how the new communities that get built up need to work and operate so that when other people come see it, they can go, oh. Because others would want to do it.
We don't need a government telling us what to do. Wow.
Right. Others will do it when things have collapsed and they can see an example, provided it's not like Road Warrior and they're just trying to eat you. But if they're being nice and playing along and like, okay, let's rebuild, and then it's like, yeah, look at this. Here's how we do it. And it's just going smoothly. And, conceptually, it's conceptual. It's not about being here at this spot and doing this exact thing. It's the concept.
Sure.
Selflessness.
Sure. But the other aspect that we're not looking at is the fact that a lot of these candidates are, engineered by them, in one form or fashion,
Sure.
like,
they got to control both sides.
So in the state of Pennsylvania, we had our choices was a Shrek lookalike versus the Wizard of Oz. So it was like, what is going on here? And, Pennsylvania is a big contested state, like it has a lot of swing and a lot of pull when it comes to these elections, as far as like votes in the House, votes in the Senate, and of course, on a state level of governor and, this National Guard that we have here. And then additionally to that, our pull when it comes to the presidential elections, the supposed pull that they say that we have, like they always make it sound like, like every single person in this process counts. Well, that's just bullshit.
It is.
It's just bullshit.
Absolutely.
Nobody counts, nobody matters. But when you start trying to like do some research on these candidates and like look for background, a lot of it is just generated, manufactured, consent, not dissent. So it's like, oh yeah, no, this person was definitely a vet. This person was definitely certified by this university with this certificate. They have this minimum career, and then all of a sudden they're in the spotlight on television and news, and they are political figures. But you cannot find out that they are, third generation removed, Rothschild related or Rockefeller related, or,
Right.
Related to one of these families in some kind of way. And with that level of deception, like, for anybody that may have the truth or, come forward with the true story, they get silenced, they get censored, even times murdered. This has occurred, and it's occurred throughout every single election throughout the history since I've been on this planet. So we've had issues with from Watergate on out. There's always some kind of, burglary, or, lately they've been cyber attacks, or, you see footage of somebody stuffing a ballot box, or they find ballots in the trash. And this is just going on with this last election. So they actually have a military cyber warfare center that's dedicated to monitoring voting in our country. So it's like, wow. What what are they really doing?
Well, exactly. We have a space agency too, so
right.
There's that.
Right. They take up a lot of space on this planet.
They've got a great big pool with a lot of space in it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So some of the other things that aren't being addressed in the mainstream news is the fact that there was deep earthquakes all around the planet recently. Now, the origin of these earthquakes, they could be sunspots. It could be a reflection of our consciousness as the species. There's lots of different, origins for the tectonic plates. Yeah, for our planet. So there's a lot of origin stories of where these deep earthquakes come from. And you could do a lot of research on that. But this is the bottom line. We do know this as science. There's a guy named Dutch Sense.
I watch him.
Yeah, he's great. He's been on the air for at least 15 years now.
Yep.
There's people all around the world. His work's been translated, and this guy doesn't have a college degree, but you wouldn't know it by listening to his podcast and his show.
He's amazing.
He breaks it down, man. So when there's a deep earthquake somewhere on this planet, there's a ripple effect of waves that go out, low frequency waves that go out into the tectonic plate areas where above surface earthquakes occur, right? So like we have to pay attention to this because our country, our planet has been hit by several very deep, very large, low earthquakes, and the ripple effect of those quakes and what they're going to do to our planet has just started. So over the next 7 or 8 days, we're looking at, 6 and 7 magnitude earthquakes that are supposed to occur throughout all the earthquake hotspots on our planet. Japan had a pretty bad one the other day, even as far as Texas. Texas had one. So like we have to pay attention to this, earthquake preparedness. Like what's it take to be prepared for an earthquake in your region because they're coming? What's it take to be prepared from, a natural gas shortage? What's it take to be prepared for a diesel shortage? Like how do we communicate if they decide to turn off the internet? These are all subjects that have to be explored and exploited, within our community, because once they start shutting things off, within a moment after they shut down the internet and the cell phone towers, they're going to hand you out a phone and they're going to say, here's your new government GI phone. Yep. and this is what you're going to use to communicate now. And guess what? There's not going to be a Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan show on it.
That's for sure.
There's not going to be a Revelation of John show on it. I promise.
Unfortunately,
they're not going to be on there.
Yeah, that'll be
so true.
That'll be a day. I was thinking about that they probably will offer communication too, because they'll offer heat and electricity and shelter and food.
Yeah. And if you go along, but you have to go along. Right. Remember.
Yeah, going along. Yeah,
you got to go along to get these things. It'd be like a reward system, which we're already in, anyways.
Yeah, but we're very much in it already.
It's going to be really bad when it's not if they're going to do all what we're talking about. It's when. Mm-hmm. It's only a matter of time. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then there's the aspect, a lot of people aren't looking at this as news recently, this FTX crypto coin that was, like the maker and origin just disappeared, vanished off the face of vanished in thin air. He's gone. Mm-hmm. He's a magician. He's gone. Black sorcerer, gone. But what he did was he created this coin that's a fraud, right? Beefed it all up and sold it all around the world, and it promoted things like stealing the money that was given to Ukraine and funding democratic political parties. And oh my God, remember when there was a medicine that could cure the CV? Remember there was this medicine that was out there, imercicin or whatever. Well, they were against that, and they used to talk against that. So there's all these different ways that they come in and attack us. And we just have to be on guard. We have to be vigilant. We have to stand in our truth. We have to, anytime somebody attacks us in any kind of way, we just have to stand on truth. We don't have to actually attack them back. We just have to stand in truth. Yep.
What you were saying about ivermectin. Yeah. Is that, and what's really cool about it is that that and hydroxychloroquine and dichloride are all anti-parasitic, and that's what they do, is they're anti-parasitic. That's why they went so crazy about ivermectin, because they knew people were going to start using it. And what we are sick with, Rick and I talked about this on our last show, is parasites. We are riddled with parasites, and that is why we are ill. And that is where mental illness arises, and that is where physical illness arises. And we have got to get ourselves clean of parasites. And I mean, I did a ivermectin run just because. And the year before that, I had done 2 separate parasite cleanses from a product called I can't remember what it's called, but it's a really good one. It's got walnut bark, black walnut bark, and grapefruit seed extract, and a few others that are just good cleansing. Really kind of focuses on different mold, yeast, and parasites. And when you really do get yourself cleaned out from that, it makes a difference. Your energy comes back. You notice a lot of different things. But Yeah, so the ivermectin, there's 5 drugs out there, and I really don't know the other ones. Dr. Lee Merritt talks about them. That's like her Fab 5, she calls them, because it's like just the 5 best drugs. And along with melatonin, melatonin that helps you sleep at night, and that your brain would produce anyway, as long as it was not being stimulated at night by the radio frequencies coming out of the phone. So keep your phone and your tablet and all your stuff turned off and away from you at night when you sleep.
Absolutely.
And,
Yep.
and you give your brain a chance to make this melatonin, which, because there's so much graphene oxide in everything, and I mean it's been found in bottled water, it's been found in tap water, it's been found everywhere. And so they're hitting us with graphene oxide too, and they're saying that you can mitigate it as well, but it's also very highly reactive to the radio frequency. And so yeah, it's just there's a lot to keep in mind with the whole poisoning factor of what's going on. They're just hitting us with everything, and so the graphene oxide and the parasites, that was just such a major aspect to this whole component. So
and totally coincidental that the 5 drugs that you're speaking about are anti-parasitic drugs. Just coincidence though.
Right. Like that's it's just such a big key to health that can just be said at any time for any reason. Just like, also just get rid of parasites, because it really does. It'll change so much about your internal health. And the things that they cause are so related to, like, you'll get flu symptoms and you'll get these other types of symptoms and diseases. Like parasites cause these certain diseases, and a lot of it is because they're sucking the nutrients out of you, and or they're convincing systems in your body to do different stuff. So you no longer are getting the benefit of this cycle or this system that normally operates in your body to produce whatever for you. It's now producing something else for them.
Well, it's like John said. It's like we talked about, and even John said, like it's not just like a frontal attack. They're hitting us on every aspect. When you think about it, it's in our food. They're hitting us with our food, our water, our air. Like, I know above me, they're spraying us to death like in the last month and a half, and I know Jonathan knows I've been complaining about it. And I actually have a guest on Monday coming to talk about chemtrails again, because I think people need to start getting their heads and their asses together and getting their head off their phone and looking up, because they're spraying me to death here. Like, they really are every day. It's just constant. You hear them at night, and they're getting sneaky, John. They're doing it at night now.
Yeah,
they were more blatant, but now at night when I'm outside, you'll hear them going back and forth, and then you never really see blue skies. We get this soup now. It's like
I'm putting up a MP or a video in tomorrow, probably, called The Dimming, and it's
I've seen that. Great movie. Yeah.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, great documentary.
I just know some other people that haven't seen that stuff or aren't really quite aware of what's going on, so I figured that's a good introduction to it, because it's there's a lot going on. And the thing is they're telling you out of one side of their mouth that they're doing it, and they admit it, and it's open, and you can go to like conventions where they talk about it and explain it, and then out of the other side of their mouth, it's just your conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Right. Don't say what they just said, because if you repeat what they just said, now you're a conspiracy theorist. We need to ban and block you.
Yep.
But they absolutely outright admit that they're doing it. That's what's crazy.
Their attitude is, we control the release of this information.
Mm-hmm.
We control the impact it's going to have on people and their willingness to want to get involved to do something different. We control all that. And if you don't allow us to control it, we're going to just get rid of you or exclude you from part of the process. Right. And they've gotten very good at that. They're masterminds at that.
Yeah, they really are.
It's scary.
Absolutely. Yep. It is scary. And like I said, they're hitting us from so many aspects. And I've learned so much even from Jonathan here, because I thought I was filtering my water properly. When I first met Jonathan, I had a Brita, and I was like, I got it covered. And then when you start learning about what is in the water and how they're poisoning the water, and then you know what a difference when I got a really real filter that
the
Jonathan
water
recommended.
Tastes so different, doesn't it?
I can smell the tap water now, Jonathan, like you told me I would after a while. I can smell it. Like, I can't even
filling it up at the top, you're like, woof.
Yeah, you're like, wow.
It smells like a pool.
It does. It's like, oh my God. So yeah, I mean, people they really have to realize that they're coming at us from every angle. Like, the school system. I mean, we could do a show on every one of these topics: school system, the air,
how to
the
raise
water.
Children properly. I want to get like Will Keller and maybe I'd like to get Dinah Martin on here and really do like a thing on kids and how to raise kids properly, because I know I don't know how. But I haven't ever had a biological child of my own yet, so I figure I still have that potential. And so I'd like to be able to have maybe all of this has collapsed and we're kind of in the rebuilding process and have a kid then, that would be cool. And do it right, like know how to do it and not do it like the way my parents did.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So that's another thing too. Like a lot of people don't want to admit to the trauma that's being, inflicted upon us, because that would mean that they were wrong, that they've been wrong, that they were wrong. That their parents were wrong, that their communities were wrong. And this is a big deal for people to actually, like, a lot of people are sitting at home right now and they're watching their television box and they know that it's nothing but deception coming out of it. There was a report on Fox News the other day, the day or two after the election, where they were saying that 78% of the people in this country are dissatisfied with the government and the way it works. But how many of them went and voted? That's my question, did the same number of people go out and vote this year as in years prior?
Well, supposedly they did, and nobody changed. Like none of the people changed. So that was what the big joke was, because I saw that. And they were like, if 78% are disagreeing with how it's going, then why did all these incumbents stay in all these places where it was big problems? You know what I mean? So it just shows more of a farce. Because the real number was that 78% is disapproving of the government. That's a real number. Everything else you see is just bullcrap. Oh, yeah, Nancy Pelosi won with like 93%.
Yeah.
That's real. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. And all these places, and then the ones where they actually do manage to get some outrageous number of votes like that, it's because of how they skew all the jurisdictions into the cities. And they jank these big counties and they lump them into this part of the city too, which just destroys all their votes.
Yep.
They have tricks. They're tricksters, man. They're devils. They're devils. You know what I mean?
And they
really,
are, and they've been doing it for so
this,
long. Yeah, forever. So they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. They think it's okay on some level. I mean, they just think it's like part of the competition or something. It's like, no, you people are trying to push evil, man. Like, it's not okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not okay. It's definitely not okay. So, but you talked about the family dynamic, raising children. Like, I would not want to be in a situation right now where that's going on a personal level, because it was so hard to do it when I was a part of the system. At this point in time in my life, if I had a child, we would be totally removed. And that would be for their protection, not mine. I've already been victimized.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be birthed at home, midwife style.
Yeah.
And no,
I have a
all
few
homeschooling,
friends, John,
all home everything, home remedies, home fucking colostrum, mother's milk, all that.
Absolutely.
Rick's about to tell us, but yeah, go ahead, Rick, tell us, because that's a big deal. A lot of people don't even know how to do that anymore. Midwife and raise children.
Oh yeah,
I've into the world. They don't even
exactly.
They have to run right to a hospital. That was not so commonplace in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, and I've interviewed a few people on my Monday show and on my YouTube channel, video style. I've interviewed a few people that have talked about home, like the damage that ultrasounds are doing, and just the whole birthing process in a hospital, how damaging that is. And I just had Janice Bardis on last Monday, and we talked for 2 hours, and what she described what goes on, what they're doing now to mothers, and the damage they're doing during the process, even with ultrasounds, as I said, and all the different medications they're giving kids, how they separate them. Like everything they're doing is designed even from before the child's born to separate them from the parents and break that familial bond. And I know people probably hear that and think I'm crazy, but it's true. They right from the time of conception, they're separating the family. They're trying to destroy that bond. And but women think they have to go to a hospital to give birth, and that's just not true. It's not.
Yeah.
These interviews are amazing. What I learned.
Yeah, my last ex, when I met her, she's like, no, I had my child at home with a midwife. Yeah, and then she gave, had the afterbirth afterwards too. I didn't know what afterbirth was. She explained it to me. She's like, it's like delivering another child. I'm like, what? Yep. She's like, yeah, it's not It's not just, the afterbirth comes out. She's like, no, it's hell. I'm like, oh shit, I had no idea. I learned a lot just from talking to her.
Yeah, like I was shocked when I learned about how how damaging ultrasounds are. Because you think of how many ultrasounds a woman gets during a pregnancy.
Yeah. Oh, let me look.
Yeah, and it's just like they're pumping them with radiation, and then like you'd have to listen to my interviews that I did with Janice on Monday in the archives, because she breaks it down, man. And I'm telling you. And then I've had Rob and Jennifer on, who I've had on my show before. They really look into the natural law of birth. And they're amazing. I've done interviews with them, and it all started with me watching their presentation for Funnel that I even looked into it. So, oh my God, we're already first hour, guys. Wow, stick around, guys. We're here with St. John, the co-host Jonathan. We will be back in 5 minutes. Stick around, guys.
Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan show.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Shit is timeless. You're up on the hill that burns the brightest. You're up on the hill.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, the Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan show. I tell you, Jonathan, that flew by that first hour. Wow.
It did indeed. Well, time flies when you're having fun and talking
you have
about
an amazing
cool
guest
things and
on
learning
too.
stuff. So yeah.
You have an amazing guest. It never seems to be enough, even 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we did get to that 2 hour mark because 1 hour would have not been enough at all. So good.
Yeah, we found that out very quickly.
We did.
So welcome back, John. I can tell you we hit a lot of important topics in the first hour. A lot of stuff I hope it's going to get people thinking.
Hey man,
talking.
I want to ask you, what's your next set of what's your what are you doing next?
Well, I just finished the Stop the Vote. I'm going to finish parceling that out. That's got to get edited down and then repost it. But I'm finishing up another project called Group Time, where I'm actually using some of my recorded group seminars and lectures, and I'm going to put that with some visual scenery in the background because I cannot actually show the faces or identify the people involved because
right.
they were under care at the time, so I wouldn't do that to them.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a project that I've been working on. That's taken quite a bit of time. But my ultimate goal is to get back down to Daytona Beach for New Year's Eve to run a second card reading for humanity. My first one was pretty interesting, so I can only imagine what the universe has lined up to reveal to me, a further course of action is what I'm looking for this time. This isn't going to be the Celtic cross spread with all the cards. This is going to be a 5-card jump where it's like we go up the ladder and see what our obstacles look like, see what the peak looks like, and then we come down a little bit just to see, some of the side effects of it. So, and I'll be breaking all that down just like I did with breaking down the Celtic cross and why that was a reading and, all that good stuff. So,
do you want to explain real quick how you use the tarot deck and just quick,
so
how you look at it, how you use it?
There's no reaching out and asking for ghouls and goblins to assist me here. That's not what goes on. In fact, these cards are very interesting because they trigger psychologically different aspects of one's mind. And by doing that, people are able to come to their own conclusions based on what the cards show. So, and that's what I promote. I don't promote any ghouls and goblins. I'm not here to promote aliens or ghosts. There is an afterlife. I've seen it personally myself twice, 2 wildly different experiences. So, and I could probably talk about each one of those experiences for hours on end, even though they only occur within a few seconds of time.
Right.
Yeah,
but, if you want to talk about them, feel free, man.
Well, I wasn't going to do it on this show, but I will do it eventually in the future.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm also working on putting out my episode 9 and all the follow-up segments for episodes 6, 7, and 8. So, I kind of did things a little differently. I don't really traditionally care about episodes or numbers, so to speak, with them. I think every episode there's always more topics and more avenues to discuss. So you go down other realms. I just recently did a K9 segment. It was my episode where I talked about dog care, communication with animals. That'll probably run on until the day I die. I'll probably keep putting out segments for that.
Yeah. That's cool.
But, all different aspects of the engineered attack against us. I'm going to get into that more. I'm hoping that by the time election season's underway and under swing, that I've developed all the online platforms that I want to utilize for the next vote, stop the vote campaign, and get more people involved. With the greater technology that I've received, it's not just a greater responsibility, it's also a greater delivery method, a greater ability to get this message out and to do it in an entertaining and educating way, where people are going to want to watch. That's the main thing, because this is a boring topic. First off, people want to remain in ignorance, but at the same time, when they are willing to do something, they start looking into things and they get frustrated because of the disinformation that's out there and the lack of ability to get to people that actually do know, such as us, such as the One Great Work Network, such as some of the other
commentators on this Revolution Radio, whether it's Studio A or Studio B. I've looked into it a little bit. It's pretty cool. But, like there's all these different aspects and avenues to this thing, and it's kind of hard to just lock it down, like, but always deal with whatever's in front of you. Like whatever the situation at hand calls for, and speak in your truth and stand in your care and stand in your truth. And the universe will line up with you. The thing with the tarot cards is just, it's not so much as there's no hocus pocus here. It's the card has symbology and colors that have meaning to them. The people that design the cards, they're well aware of the psychological warfare that's against humanity right now. A lot of them are, they developed it. They developed it so that they can control and manipulate us and become the gods that they want to be on this earth. Now, here's the secret I'll tell everybody. We all already are kings and queens. We all already are gods on this earth. We have a great responsibility. There's been quite a few people that have come through our history and humanity that have explained to us just how powerful we are and what we can do with that. Whether the universe assists you or tears you down and destroys you is going to depend on your intention. What is it that you seek to redeem from the situation? Like if your ultimate pursuit is justice and truth and love and freedom, and you come from a morality standpoint, the universe is going to be there to back you up, man. A lot of people are worried about money, whether they're going to have this or have that, like whether they're going to be able to take care of their families, like the birds of the air, gentlemen. I walked away from a position and a job with a decent salary because I was not going to roll up my sleeve. I was not going to do that. And I didn't have a large bank account, and then I have all kinds of, I did have a lot of good networking and resources, but nobody that's willing to just hand you money so that you can survive in this world. Right. But like I said, like the birds of the air, man, I just carried on and, principles first. I had to do what was right in my heart. To set
not to mention it would have killed you. There's
well,
that too.
It's interesting that you said that, because I have a very good close friend that's very aware of the agenda to kill humanity. He lives in total denial and absence of that. And, he went and got it. And when I confronted him about it, I said, why did you do it to yourself? He says, I would never let anything stop me from being able to walk through those doors, as he pointed to the facility we worked at. He says to walk through those doors and be able to help people. And how can I argue with that? You can't argue with that. You know what I mean? Like I understand, in his heart, in his mind, in his version of, how he sees the truth. Sure. In order for him to carry on, the only way to do it is to walk through those doors and help people.
Which you and I both know. You don't have to go through those doors specifically to help people. You maybe to help the people behind those doors. Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
So that kind of puts it at a point where it's like, well, I'd rather grab those people and put them behind a different set of doors then.
How about that?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I'm all about the people.
Yeah, but at the same time, it made me cry because I understood and I knew he wasn't lying to me. I know he wasn't lying. So it's like this is only just getting started. Yep. People think we're over some kind of hump and it's over now, and we're going to come out into like clear blue skies and
that's what I hear. Yeah,
and unicorns. But guess what, man? They're just getting started, and for some reason they seem like they're under this high level of pressure and urgency, which tells us that their time here and what they've been doing to us is not going to last much longer, and It is short. Whether it's going to be pleasant or not, I don't think so, but it is short for them.
And the ending part might be not pleasant too. It might be like big catastrophic, sky opens up, bad things.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, and if the sky did open up and, Jesus Christ were to come down and return to humanity, would you even believe it was him or some kind of government psyop?
Well, maybe the sky opens up and fire and death comes raining down. I mean,
you'll definitely believe that that's real.
Yeah. If the sky opens up, a lot of different things could happen. I mean, it could be, I'm thinking more of like the fire and death, and there's like chunks of burning coming at us, and it's like, oh God, what is this?
Wow, yeah.
Or water again come pouring out. Either way, we would be pretty well hosed if it was a giant natural disaster situation.
Yeah, so I found a lot of love with my new canine companion. Her name
Oh,
is
nice.
Athena. I created the doghouse episode in honor of her and my brother. My brother, when he passed away, he left me his dog, amongst other things. And she has filled a hole that I did not know I had in my life.
Beautiful, dude. That's cool. Very cool. What's her name?
Her name's Athena, like the Greek goddess of
Athena.
wisdom
Cool.
and war.
Right on.
That's
So
awesome.
She showed up right on time.
Yeah, not right. She's like, hey, don't forget about me.
Yeah, she's really like this. She's just like, look at her. She's like, yeah, I'm on camera. Yep.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
don't
if
know
we were
if she
outside,
knows or
my
not,
kitty
but
cat would be doing the same
she
thing.
definitely suspects that there's something going on, because when I'm sitting here talking to other people, she knows that there's other people talking back.
Yep. Yep. The kitty cat knows that same thing outside. So when I'm filming, he comes bombing up and he's there every time I start filming.
Yeah, that's why I have to keep mine out of the podcast room, because they'll be on the keyboard. They as soon as I turn on the camera, they're like, oh, cameo.
He's paying attention, and he's paying attention to me.
So one of the tools that I utilize, Jonathan, and I talked about this with you before, is the hashtags. Now, if you were interested in finding out anything about Miss Athena here and you wanted to see her episode Doghouse, what you would do is you would type in hashtag Doghouse, hashtag by St. John, and you'll find it. If you wanted to find the Stop the Vote thing I did, you'd look up hashtag Stop the Vote, hashtag by St. John. It's right there. A lot of the hashtags I used over the years: Dynasty Recovery Lifestyle, Revelation at John Show, Principle of Care. These all have significant meanings to me. And someone said, well, you know, like using the hashtags is pointless because, you know, once it goes viral and everybody's doing it, then you're not going to have a voice anymore. And here's my message. Here's my response to that. And this is great. I won't need to.
Yeah.
Good point.
I won't need to, because it'll all be viral, which is perfect.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep doing this. You guys don't want to have to keep doing this.
Yeah.
You know, and there's younger people coming into play right behind us that are doing a great job at this. Young man, it's got a conference coming up in a couple weeks. Corey Enderlot from NITA 1, NITA.1 ONE. Yeah, he's got this End Slavery Summit coming up that I'm a part of. That's a great thing. I'm not the only one.
He was on this show a couple weeks ago.
I caught it. It was a great show. It was a great show to watch.
Cool.
But yeah, no. So, you know, like, and he's young, you know, like I like to see the young.
He's 22.
Yeah,
he's
and like
a 22-year-old kid, man. He's crushing it for 22 years old.
He is crushing. He's doing so much. It's incredible.
Yep.
He is crushing it. And,
he is definitely a poster child for reincarnation. Like, that's not like, I was nowhere near that at 22. That's not to say I'm anything exceptional or whatever, but I think I'm more normal. And he's somebody who came back with a mission.
At 21 years old, I was nowhere near that. Like, at least not I wasn't.
Not in thought process. Even if I knew the stuff he knew, I certainly wouldn't be out doing stuff about it. I mean, that's not where I was when I was that age.
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of meeting him several times. And the last time I actually was up the mountains, and I had to get away from my home environment for a little bit. And it was nice to just go up and visit and meet him and meet some of his family and, you know, get to know the area a little bit. So he's not too far off from us.
Yeah, he's got a cool sister. He had her on one of his podcasts where he was like teaching her natural law. There's just got an episode. It runs on the Great Work Network. So I see him and her a lot, you know, just I see that episode. And they look a lot alike, too. It's crazy.
Very kind-hearted souls, very intuitive and informed, both of them. I really see like a lot of future for him, man. I'm not going to be here in 20 years, but I'd like to see where he's at and what he's doing in 20 years.
Yep.
You know
his book was really good, too. I got his book before I interviewed him on my YouTube channel, and his book is amazing, too.
I have not read his book, but I do have it.
I read it.
I do. I have a book. I have a stack about as tall as me.
I met him the first time at the activation tour for Derek Bros, another excellent gentleman who's been doing fine work for years now. He actually ran for mayor of, I think, Houston, and like didn't make it, but you know, like he's seen the political process from the inside out too. So, and he's somebody that's in our circle a little bit too, Jonathan, with the being in recovery and all that. And he was a great guy to meet. And yeah, his work is phenomenal.
I've seen some of his work. I didn't know he was a recovered alcoholic.
Drug addict, I believe.
Drug
but
addict? Okay.
Not that any of it matters, I mean.
No, it's just it's professional curiosity, I guess, is what I would say.
Sure. But like he promotes a lot of the same things that you and I have talked about, meditation, practicing your principles, promoting principles, trying to find solutions. Like I love when I see that going on, man,
because that's the answer right there. Is like we can, and the problems have to be pointed out, and who's doing it needs to be pointed out. But at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of solution so that your mind can cycle through all the trash and then know that this is what we have to do to fix this. Because if you don't have what there is to do to fix it and what we can aim at and how we can try to be, this will just engulf you.
Absolutely.
And so I don't, people that especially might be just learning about a lot of this, they get engulfed by the evil. And it's like, no, you got to digest the evil because it's there, and you got to figure out how bad it is and what you're going to have to face. And then you got to also realize that you're going to have to drastically change the system we're currently in to something else. And that's what I like to try to talk about on the show with Rick and our guests is how and what this new system's going to look like.
Yep. And how do we get there to the system that we want? Yeah. And
it all starts with personal responsibility first and foremost. The fewer people that think that they need a doctor, there will be fewer need for doctors, because people will learn to take care of themselves, and you won't need a doctor if you're eating properly and exercising enough, which isn't none of that's hard. None of that's hard stuff to do. And if you're actually being responsible and taking care of your family and your friends and your neighborhood in the regards of food and all these other basic things, you'll be getting enough exercise just doing your normal out and about stuff. Which, by the way, won't be a 9-to-5 job for some guy you don't like so that you can make some money to pay bills. It'll be doing the stuff in your community to make sure that your solar panels are all working, and making sure that your batteries are all working, and that your water supplies are all good, and that everybody's forest of food and garden and beehives, and that's what you'll be doing. That's what I want to be doing. And that's what it would look like. Because then who cares about money? Money can go away too.
So as I remove myself slowly but surely from the system, and I'm sure anyone else that's doing that as well will experience the same thing, you'll notice that you have less and less aggravation and problems in your life. The little bit of aggravation and issues that I have on a mental level or financial level, or things are unaccorded, like they're not working out or whatever, usually has something to do with the fact that I'm still involved with the system on some level. For those that are totally not involved with the system, God bless you. I'm trying to get there. I don't know how to get there the whole way, but I'm working on it. Yeah. But, like I've taken some heat because of my involvement with the system, whether it was because I worked for the enemy, Rockefeller medicine industry, or because I still participate in the system on some levels today, like such as, like if there's a crime or something that's occurred. Like I just recently was through some traumatic stuff with a friend of mine who's doing very well. But, like there has to be justice incurred, for those that say, oh, well, you're still, like that's great. That's fine that you feel that way. But, I ask any one of you to pull out your wallet, opening it, pull out the things inside of it, and tell me you're not a part of the same system. Absolutely. The fact that we utilize internet services and we have to have, means to broadcast our messages and stuff like that. Like these are some of the last grasps of the system, intertwined within me that I'm getting rid of as time unveils itself. But
I mean, if you really want to get that nitpicky about it, anytime you purchase anything, you're paying taxes. Exactly. So what does that mean you only steal or purchase from places that don't charge you taxes? I mean, if you're going to be like a purist, right?
Yeah. Well, no, you've talked about it, and this is the thing. Like, so the more involved we are with discussing truth and exposing it, like I asked Mark Passio one time, I said, like, what's it going to take for us to like turn the tide? And he said it very plainly. It's going to take 51%. Now that's not actually 51%, but it's like 50.00000. It's going to take that. It's going to take that in order for us to move aside. So is it going to be something like, chemtrails? Is it going to be, the flat earth issues? Is it going to be, like food foresting? Is it going to be, Rockefeller medicine exposure? Like, what's going to be that final straw that pushes us all over the limit? And I'm going to tell you, it's very simple, just like the people in Canada, the people in Australia, the people in New Zealand. When it comes knocking on your front door, that's going to be the particular issue. Right. And they've got it set, like they've got it all over the place. But, like there's going to be that defining moment, that line in the sand where you say to yourself, I'm done. And what happens after that is going to be up to us as a collective. Like, do we come together and do we create a collective consciousness of some kind of consensus that works us out of governmental systems? Mm-hmm. Like that's what's needed. My suggestion is we body cam everybody up so we could see what the hell is going on as it's unfolding and we could have input on it. But we're still a couple years away from that, and there's going to be a lot of suffering in the meantime. And there's going to be a lot of exposure. We're going to hear of some horrific things over the next couple years. You think Hunter Biden's laptop and, like some of the different things that have occurred, you think that they would have been the final straws. No, not yet, but it's coming. We're going to see things that are absolutely horrific for us that have been in this movement and doing this and exposing the lies of the agenda. We're all going to sit back and say, we're trying to tell you. And the rest of the world's going to look and say, I can't even believe that that's real.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those days are coming. They're right around the corner from us.
They are.
Yeah, like the concept of giant underground cities with people that have never ever been above ground.
I've said that. Yeah.
And they get used for sacrifices, they get used for food, they get used for repopulation whenever there's a big catastrophe. Like one of the videos I posted on my Flat Earth channel called History of Flat Earth talks about how there's these cities and there's just no people in them. And then a couple years goes by and then there's people everywhere. And so just kind of as an aside, he doesn't really talk about it much, but he does bring up like, where did these people come from? And then also in the 1920s during the World's Fair, there was all these incubator babies and it was a big fad. There was this big thing about all
that was disturbing.
Incubator babies and where'd they come from? And everybody wanted one and everybody had one. And there was hundreds of thousands of these orphans too.
Yep. So you're talking a little bit about Tartaria, right? That's where you're
Tartaria.
Well, just kind of at that time of it's in America where it was going on, but like it's from that time frame of like lost history.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And so they're saying that would have been like the mudslides or the whatever happened that basically eliminated the good race of people that built all that awesome stuff back then. Were flooded with, the dreg of down below. And here you go. They'd never seen anything. They never told anything. You're just up here living. That's why there's these palaces with mud streets and a people living around them that didn't do it.
Yeah, they didn't build it. Absolutely.
So.
Well, I never want to discount any possible information or possibility of history or truth. I never want to discount anything. So I know that there's some people that are against flat earthers that discount anything a flat earther says. I will not be that person. I will never be that person because I think everybody has value to each equation. But I will say this, on a personal level, I don't personally believe in flat earth. I believe that we're on some kind of a round rock floating through the sky. But I will say this, is that I've learned tremendously about the history and the origins of humanity from watching a lot of flat earth materials, such as John Levy, Levi, or Michelle Gibson, another one, goes into detail, documents, has actual interaction with the people that watch her material, her content. They'll send her in video clips and, historical accounts of buildings. And like, when you start looking through Wikipedia and like this same architect, designed all these types of buildings all around the world, and he did it within a 6-year time frame. And you start looking at these buildings, you say to yourself, there's no way in hell. And he got it how? He won a contest? Like, that's the real official narrative? Like, some architect won a contest. Now all of a sudden he designed 25 cathedrals around it. Like, it's just like their stories just don't add up. And like, when you start understanding that they're lying to us now, about what's going on right now, then you start to get this deeper inner understanding that they've always been lying to us.
Always.
They've been lying to us at the beginning.
Yep.
It's like the whole, disinformation campaign of our origins, like they want us to be bastard children, and they want us to turn to them as our new step parents, to get our handout or, whatever's next. Like that's what they want.
Yep. And I'm the same way. I never want to discount information. I love that you said that, John, because I'm the same way. I will listen to anything like to pull true, like if I can get good information out of it. I don't want to just throw the whole subject away, like you say. Right. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people do. As soon as they hear flat earth, they throw the whole, they don't even look into it. But there's information in there.
That's by design, Brick. That. That's by design. They've done that so that, and they started back with the Kennedy assassination. Yep. They wanted anybody that they wanted to label as a quack or, somebody that's off, kilt with their narrative. Anybody that goes against their narrative and in any kind of way, they want them to be, the crazy one.
A conspiracy theorist.
If you watch a lot of my videos, my first couple minutes, I usually have like some kind of crazy video collage with stuff that I created, like graphics or designs.
Yeah, your video intros are cool.
Yeah, like crazy off the wall stuff. And the more you get to know about me, the more you'll understand what you're watching. And that's the idea, to like try to draw people in. But like, like you watch that stuff and you got to say to yourself, like there's propaganda that's been used against us. I'm just trying to, like shed light on different subjects that I've experienced personally. Mm-hmm. Now, do I talk about topics I know nothing about? Of course you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I don't really spend a lot of time focusing on things like, whether the Earth's round or a globe or anything, because I really don't give a shit. To be honest with you, it doesn't matter if we're standing on a square. It doesn't matter if we're standing on, a round ball or if it's, a can of Campbell's soup that we're sitting in. It doesn't even matter what we're in or on. What it matters is what we're going to do with it all. We've been poor stewards, bad management, murders at the top of our to-do list, and destruction of the planet. Like this, like these are the topics we need to worry about. These are the topics we need to discuss. And the fact that there's so much dividedness, divisiveness, like it's all because they've generated it, man. They've generated every aspect of it.
Yeah, but on that same topic, it matters huge, actually, because once you know that there is something wrong with what their main story is about the fact that they can't prove curvature, so they can't prove that it's a globe. Now, maybe I can't prove that it's entirely flat, but with the best instruments we have, we can zoom in past, far, far, far past what their curvature calculator off their given circumference and size and diameters are. So, in other words, that one thing completely nullifies that whole section of their theory, being globe theory. That's gone then. And then, 20 years ago, they used to tell you can see curvature from your airplane. Well, we got to the point where we realized that's BS. Then they started telling us you could see boats going down over the curve, and we could zoom in on them. And they were like, well, okay. So then they changed the story. And where I'm going with this is that it absolutely matters if we're on a square or if we're on a ball or if we're on a flat plane. Because if we're on a flat plane, that means that all of the religious texts that talked about that have something to the story of what we look like, and it goes deeper than just that it's flat. And they all kind of line up about something. So that tells us more about where we actually are, and the fact that they can create in our imagination something so far out, like all of the planets and all of the vastness and all of the different aliens, and the fact that we're ready to leave this place and go out to do that stuff. We're on our way to Mars, when reality is we're on a motionless thing created by a creator, and we can't get out, even if we wanted to. And we don't know what's out there. See, those are huge differences. Now, they perpetrate the one, whereas I think if it wasn't perpetrated so much, it wouldn't matter to such an extent, other than the schism that it does create in our actual, because our higher self knows what's going on. And this is it's a different situation. So what I can say is I can appreciate those who don't really want to investigate it that much. And like, so when you said you don't talk about it because you don't care, and that's fine. But I've put in, I mean, I don't know, well over 100 hours in research. And that's listening into globe earth stuff too. Like, oh, it's a globe, I guaranteed. And I'll watch all that stuff because it interests me. And I want to see who's got the best argument and who convinces me the best ultimately. And also what kind of video footage that I can discern is not made up and also convinces me the best. And
well, that's the other thing, you know, like, and I don't want people to think I don't care. That's why
I brought this up, because I wanted you to have a chance to kind of.
Yeah, I don't think it's as important of an issue as the attack that's going on against us in other ways. I mean, that's just one aspect of the attack. You know, I think if we were to take back over the welfare systems that we created and the science agency that we created called NASA, if we were to take it back over as people, we would get to the bottom of what's really going on.
I mean, just the money they get alone in 1 year from us.
You remember, yeah, they don't even want to talk about that. And I put that in.
Right, the billions that go to this organization that float around in a pool and tell us they're in outer space.
Yeah, one day.
And think about the level. If people understood, wow, they lied to us from birth about the planet. Like, all other hoaxes go away after that. Like, no one could not believe anything after that. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing too big anymore. It's like, oh my God, wow, really? It's all over from there, you know. And then, well, who said that? Oh, and then now what else? You know what I mean? That's when the pitchforks and the torches come out, because it's just like, you know, to me, and I believe that's something that can come out versus people saying this is the four families really doing it. This is the 4 grand wizard, half dragon, half humans that are running these guys.
Right.
I think there's going to be a dude going, it's flat, and here's proof, long before we see the 4 dragon people guys that are running it all.
Let me find out you're subscribing to Scientology lately. But, you know, like, that's the other thing, too. Like, see how we're sitting here having a conversation? There are so many people that have opposing views that cannot even do that, Jonathan.
Exactly.
You know, like, and let us be the example as someone that has opposing views on one particular topic that doesn't let that get away in the pursuit of overall truth and the implementation of morality and humanity, man.
Exactly. Being the most important part, the morality aspect of it. And again, personal responsibility. See, they all go in line. If you take the personal responsibility first as the most important thing, period, ever, you're personally responsible. So morality by default comes in. You may have to learn exactly what that is, but if you're taking personal responsibility, by default you will be moral. And then it might take a while before you get to that step of going out of your way to do something for others. That's not necessarily so much personal responsibility as it is waking up to your higher purpose on this planet. Sure. That's why I believe it's the Christ consciousness. It's what Christ was teaching. It's like, yes, do no harm, and yes, defend thyself. But like, that's your basis. Now, from there, what do you do? From there, you do for others selflessly, and that's how you will beat these demons. That's the only way we can win a spiritual war. It's the only way we can win a spiritual war.
Yeah. Personal responsibility. That's so true, John. But how many people are willing to do that, to take personal responsibility? Because then they can't point the finger at somebody else, right? It's a lot easier to point and blame everything at someone else,
or a situation, or
a situation, instead of pointing the finger squarely at themselves. And how many people are willing to do that, to take that personal responsibility? If people are kicking and screaming to anything but that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, just my thought.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull this up real quick. I'm going to just give you a little rundown of what my personal responsibility looked like at one point. Cool. You know, coming to the acceptance of it all.
Yeah.
You know, like, a lot of people don't want to accept the situation for what it is.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
They want to paint this picture in their mind and imagine what it should be or what they think it might be, but without the actual, I don't know. It's funny. I can't find it now. Of course, it's always that way, but it basically goes along the line of this. Like in order for me to have evolved into the person that I've become today, for those that have known me from before, it took a lot of diligence, and it took a lot of self introspection to look at self and see where I was wrong in every situation, and deal with that. Like, that's the dark night of the soul. When you're on your hands and knees and you're crying out to yourself, because you know that you've put yourself in this situation yet again, right? So that's the personal responsibility part's huge. And once somebody accepts it, now they have to get up and they have to do something about it. So for anybody that's listening to this broadcast, I encourage you, if you're sitting on the edge of your chair thinking to yourself, man, I got to do something. I got to get involved more. There's lots of fine organizations out there on a local level, wherever you're at on this planet, that you can assist and plug in and get to know other people and try to help out. But there's also the aspect of, by doing so, you create a new reality for yourself and those that you come in contact with.
Right.
You said something, Jonathan, about reincarnation and like coming back through and all that. And I've actually studied this topic in very, 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 very deep levels. And I have a very well-rounded understanding of it. I will say this. There's been people that have shown us how to get out of the system, and if we chose to stay out of the system. But that's an individual's journey and path. You're not going to do it in one lifetime. It's going to take several lifetimes of like gearing yourself and preparing yourself. But once you have an awakening in this incarnation, when you're here and you finally have your awakening, all that previous knowledge from other awakenings in other lifetimes all comes into play here and now immediately. It might be gradual for some aspects of it, but as long as you're willing to keep moving forward with it, it's always going to be front and center for you.
Yep.
I try to not focus so much about my previous lifetimes. I try not to focus so much about future lifetimes. What I try to do is the boots on the ground work that needs to be done in this lifetime. Right. I really believe in my heart that if I do things correctly this time around, I won't have to come back.
Right.
That's also me having the inner knowledge that if I've done things correctly and I put that feather on the scale and my deeds aren't heavier than that feather, right? Or whatever you believe occurs, right?
Sure.
That when they go to say, hey, get back in line, you're going back down again. I'm going to be going over this way. Get the hell out of here. looking for the exit door. I'm getting off this ride.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody outside of yourself that would be holding you back. So it would be a matter of understanding that I believe that any forgiveness that's necessary would come from yourself. You realizing that you forgive yourself for the things that you've done, and that's why you don't have to go back to try to fix it, because you can't go back and fix it. You're only going to go back and make new bad stuff in the course of trying to fix anything. And so you just have to learn at that moment, because forgiveness is the way out of any reincarnation cycle. That's what just about any of the teachings you'll hear from any practice will tell you. And I believe that means self-forgiveness, in that you can be convinced by an archon that you've done bad, that it's your superior. That's, I'm sure, part of the role that it plays, whether it's in the form of Jesus or not. And it tells you straight up, you messed up, and your options are hell or whatever it is that person may believe in, or going back and trying again. And what do you think anybody's going to try or say? Oh, I'll go back and do it again. And, just as a conscious decision, like, I'd much rather try to do that. And so, but the fact is, you realize it's only yourself that you're fooling to begin with.
Right.
You don't have to go back. You don't have to listen to this guy convince you that because you were bad, I'm sure it's formed in a way that you choose all of it. You know what I mean? It's just, you're tricked. And sure. I feel that's what it is. I don't think if you're better than being able to be tricked, if you understand that it's a trick to come back, because they just want us as an energy cycle.
Somebody explained it to me very simply. Heaven is the things that we heave up into our mind, right? And then hell is the heel of our foot. Like these are all constructs of the mind is what I'm getting at. For us to have a collective heaven, a collective hell, we're in a collective right now. How good does it look, guys? How good does it look? So, and this is the best that we can do. This is the best we have to offer ourselves right now. So, like, I just try to do my individual part, and then when I'm able to come together with others, I try to, get in where I fit in. That's the term I like to use. But you always have to meet people where they're at too, so I don't try to beat them down with things that they don't understand or talk above them, because that's not what this is about. I always try to, oh, well, you come from a origin of Christianity, or you come from an origin of Islamic faith, or you come from an origin of Judaic faith. Like, I have a little bit of understanding and knowledge of these things. I've taken the time to research them in my own pursuit of my own salvation. For me, my salvation is only going to occur as a self-induced action. It's not going to be because somebody gave it to me.
Right.
It's never been given to me. Everything.
That's what I don't understand. People, like, the most important thing out there, and they think that someone else did it for them.
Well, that's the construct of, the Christian, the Catholic, the Christianity, they have these constructs where they want you to rely on them as an intercessory between you and your higher self, between you and where you've come from, your source. Yeah. And it's horrible, but that's what goes on. And, but I think people are coming into their own, as a species. Their plan has backfired in so many ways, because all it has done is shed more light on their darkness, as they attacked us and, try to re-engineer us as another species for them to utilize, or whatever they're doing. They think they're going to do next. For some reason, they feel like they're under pressure and they have to get it done within a certain amount of time because they're running out of time. Now, whether that's because of some kind of natural catastrophe that they're well aware of that's coming our way on a global level, or whether it's because they know that their crimes are about to be exposed on a global level and they're going to have to run and hide. They're going to have to run and hide then.
Yeah, because the last thing they want is people getting conscious and consciously thinking, and that's the last thing they want is people thinking.
So do you remember when they had the protest for Occupy Wall Street, and they had all the stand-ins where people would put their arms inside of the metal tubes and they would block it?
Was that like 2008 or what was that? What year was that?
Well, it was going on for a couple years from like the Iraq war on out. Like there was all these different versions of it where people were
trying to remember how long ago it was, because that was a long time ago. But yeah, I do remember it.
So like these are the kind of things you don't see in play anymore, because they've controlled the opposition since then. There was too many renegade groups running around, and that's why they were able to organize and shut down intersections in inner cities and everything, because they were organized. And there wasn't one fired shot, right? There wasn't people driving through a parade of people in their car. There wasn't any of these things that have occurred since then.
Burning down buildings.
Yeah, just this crazy stuff that keeps going on over and over and over. But you gotta understand, like, the last time we actually came together as a species and actually tried to do something, that was those days. Like since then, it's been these smaller movements that get some kind of attention from the mainstream media, which hasn't been very much at all. So
I think enough spells have been done on this nation that we've all participated in, like through the Super Bowls and the Olympic ceremonies, that this has all been coming, and it's out of our hands now at this point. I think they've got enough of an army of just, you know what I mean, zombies already, that's how they get the cities to burn down and stuff now, just like with very little, the trigger is so small now, and they let it go.
It's a hair trigger now.
And then they've also got the media on the side going, oh, mostly peaceful, and none of the commentators ever are talking bad about it or anything, and then it's insane. So it's a perfect storm of wow, they're bringing the pain to us.
Well, this is the other thing that we didn't talk about either, that the average person probably has no concept of, which is that Smith-Mundt Act, which has to do with them being able and allowed and sanctioned by our vote as a species in this country. We've agreed that these people can be in place and lie to us because of this Smith-Mundt Act. The propaganda that they put on us, they're controlling every aspect of the oppositions. They are the oppositions as well as the main players. So, you know, and I look at this stuff and I think, you know, like, well, what's it going to take for, you know, like, it's only going to take one person on the, you know, in the movement to go viral in some kind of aspect or way for us to all get some type of an attention. But whether that's going to come while I'm alive, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's been different kinds of movements over the years, you know, like a lot of times they don't get attention until after the players are long gone. So, you know, and the victors always tell the story. So we're supposed to be victorious at the end of this thing. So let's see how this story gets told, right?
Yep. Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice if everything kind of went back to a little bit of nature and back to a little bit of reality and getting along, working with one another.
Yeah, that's
be
amazing. Mine too. Yep.
And it's not that far off, really. I mean, you know, on a huge scale, perhaps, but like, I think there's going to be so much of a collapse that the big giant megalopolis mentality will go away, and I think people will just intentionally and intuitively gravitate and stay in smaller clusters. Even though we might be pretty close, we're going to stay clustered smaller and pop off when they start to get too big, you know, rather than make these big ass cities again. There's a lot of aspects of how we do things as groups that are going to have to be looked at and considered when kind of rebuilding. You know, I'm already in my mind in the rebuilding process.
Oh yeah,
because it's
and we do talk about that a lot too. Like, how do we rebuild it?
Right, because the collapse is already it's coming. So
it's coming.
Like, well, we better start talking about how to build it, because it's, you know, who knows when it's actually going to start falling apart. But when it does, it'll probably go pretty quick.
Yeah, that's why I'm definitely reaching out to my community, like, and that I live around, and I'm trying to get to know my neighbors better and people in my community, and starting to help people any way I can in my community, doing different things. So I think that's what we have to go back to.
Yep. You're heading down to Florida for a while, is that right?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to pull stakes in Pennsylvania and go down to Florida for the next couple months.
I wish I was going.
Well,
I'm in a snowbank right now.
Well, the type of business that I'm involved in right now, I'm wearing my best friend's shirt. It's called the Principal Perseverance. We do clean outs and demos and roofing and carpentry and all kinds of stuff. But there seems to be a pretty high demand right now in Florida. So we're going to go down that way. Me and my partner, we're not interested in making money. We're interested in our basic survival and being able to do that. But at the same time, we know that the environment down there on a political level, on a harassment level, it's just less. There's just less going on down there. And the people are a little bit, I don't want to say slower. That's not the right word. But they're a little bit more laid back. So
and slower, some of them.
I've put my time in the inner cities. I've put my time in the mental health field up north here. So I'm getting ready to go and enjoy a little bit of not retirement, but I'll call it semi-retirement. It's the word that I'm going to look for, because I'm not actually going to be not working. I'm going to be working, but the great thing about the type of work that I'm involved with today is it's versatile, but it's also at my like, I write the script for it. Like, I don't have to follow a script of someone else. There's no bosses in my life today. So this is like huge, you know.
It's the most fun and important way to work. Yeah.
What a powerful way to live when you don't have a boss.
Sure.
Like people do. And I just see, and I always tell people, John, I'm like, you figure, I know people that are working, 60, 70 hours a week at a job they absolutely hate going to, don't want anything, like they just dread it. And I'm thinking, if you would take do something that you love doing and put the same amount of hours in every week, you're going to create something amazing. Maybe you're going to suffer a little bit in the process of building it, but in the long run, you're going to be so much happier. I wish people would see that.
There I was about a year into my first job working at a rehab in downtown Philadelphia. And, like I'm dealing with people that suffering from the most severe addiction, withdrawal, and mental health issues that you could come across. Mm-hmm. And of course, the facility's not a 5-star Hilton hotel. It's what you get to go and experience if you have no money, in life. So, the one coworker that I had it out with a director, and I was arguing with the director, and it got a little heated. It was over something stupid, but it got a little heated. And the coworker comes out to me on the cigarette break, the morning break, and says, "Hey, listen, I can't believe you talked to the director that way. You could get fired." And I started laughing, like a crazy person, laughing. And they said, "Well, I don't think that's funny. You said you got bills to pay and you got this and that." And I said, "I don't work for them. They might sign my checks this week." Yep. But I don't work for them.
Yeah,
exactly.
And if you go through life knowing that your employer, your real employer in this world is not ever going to fire you, you could quit, you could resign, but you ain't ever going to get fired.
Yeah.
So, I try to take that attitude with me everywhere, man. There's people around you that need help. Whether they're in your personal space, whether they're in your cyberspace, whether you've met them or not yet. Mm-hmm. I used to joke around and say in the beginning of my process that I've got best friends I haven't even met yet. And I said that years and years ago. And now I have so many people in my life, and I have so many different contacts and resources all around the world and within this country as a result of doing this great work, man. Just being present, being available, and putting in the effort. It's not going to, nobody's going to move your shovel in the movement of the mountain that's in front of us. You've got to pick up your shovel and do your work.
Right.
Your work may be different than mine, but it's probably just as important. That's the way I try to look at everything, and
it is. We all come together as a big tapestry, you know what I mean? And that's what creates the community, which is how this thing does work. It's all of us acting together with our own personal responsibility.
Rick just said it a second ago, when it comes to those real in your face relationships that we have in our lives, whether it's neighbors or community members or family members or, coworkers or whatever, we have to be available for them. We have to listen. We have to talk, we have to give advice, we have to be solid individuals,
Absolutely.
And we always have to stand behind truth and morality. I don't have to, hand every homeless person I see on the street $1. That's not what I'm talking about here. When I say helping others, I mean, instead of handing them the $1, how about you take the token and put it in the thing and take the ride with them to where they need to get the help, where they need to get the treatment, where they need to get the, the resources or, the connections to get better help in their life, whatever it is, just be present and be available. There's nothing that we can give to anyone that has more value than our time and our attention.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And a lot of the times, a lot of people, at least in my life, they just need somebody to talk to. It's so powerful when you just take the time to sit down and talk to people and listen to them. And, I learned so much by doing that.
Sure.
Sure. I met a lot of amazing people.
Yep.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. You guys got a great thing going on here with this radio show, man. I'm glad you guys invited me on and allowed me to be a part of your cause and your movement.
Cool. Yeah, man. It's great to have you on. You got a lot to say, and we could do it probably 2 or 3 more times, in a row, and still not even get over everything that we could talk about. But why don't you go ahead and spit out real quick again some of the places people can go and find your stuff real quick.
Yeah, so I always try to keep it real easy. I use the hashtags, hashtag principal care, hashtag dynasty recovery lifestyle, hashtag by St. John. That's BY, not BUY. That's BY St. John. Then there's thelostprinciple.com. That's my website. Then you could go to the One Great Work Network. You can find me there. I'm on Twitter, Twitch. Twitter's my show _Revelation. Twitch is the Revelation of John show. I'm on Discord, Telegram, Skype, Zoom, Gilded.
You're all over the place.
You're on everything.
You name a platform, I'm trying to be there. I'm trying to have some kind of a presence there. I want to be able to stream live in the future and have people be able to reach out and contact me from any one of those areas and be able to throw them up live as I'm streaming. I think that's important for people to be able to.
Do you have a link tree? Do you have a link tree?
I don't have a link tree yet, but I am working on one.
Cool. Maybe get all your stuff put on your website, like I have, like all the little link spots. I've built my own link tree on my website, kind of. So
sure.
But, yeah.
I haven't really invested too much time in. I've been all over the place, but I'm looking to lock it all down over the winter and stream live a couple times, and hopefully by the time I get to New Year's, I'm running the show the way I want to. So
awesome.
Well, thank you so much, John, for joining us, man. This 2 hours
brother.
flew by, and you're always welcome back, my friend. You know that.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you so much, John.
And there's so many topics. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take care, guys, and we'll be back next week.
Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.